Again, it is not a laughing matter. We are here today to call your attention to the fact that an egregious, disgusting joke was made about George Floyd. Here we are about to memorialize George Floyd for year 6 after his brutal murder at the hands of the Minneapolis Police Department. Our community is still experiencing grief and trauma. We have young people in our community who were children at the time, they're now teenagers, still dealing with the impacts of the police killing of George Floyd. And instead of allowing our community to grieve in peace, to celebrate George Floyd in peace, we have Netflix comedians making light of the brutal killing of George Floyd. It is unacceptable and it is unconscionable. Tony Hinchcliffe made a grotesque joke saying that George Floyd is looking up at us, laughing, and he can't breathe. When I saw the clip online, it made me sick to my stomach. We are here to declare today that there needs to be accountability for Kevin Hart's Netflix roast.
Kevin Hart is responding to the George Floyd roast criticism. Here's what he got to say.
Yeah, the George Floyd joke, it wasn't a tasteful joke to our culture, to our audience, but our audience that's watching the roast, if you're watching the roast, you get why they're doing it. You get why the racial humor is on the table. Like, it's not, I wasn't shocked. Like, that's what they do. Go look at the Tom Brady one. Like, that's what they do. It happens every year when they do a roast. It's not new. This isn't a new, it's not a new agenda. It's not a new approach to comedy.
Do you feel like Tony Hinchcliffe went too far when he made that joke about George Floyd?
It's Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect less. I don't expect more.
I feel like you're saying going too far is the point. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yes, I mean,
okay.
That's why you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Hart, I'm not trying to indict your character at all, but I do think this reflects your character. You have more energy and effort for protecting this white man in the name of comedy to be able to say racist shit than I've seen you protect black folks publicly, especially when it comes to dealing with racist shit. Before I go further in this analysis, I want to say to all the comedians that believe in freedom of speech, that does not equal freedom of critique. I don't want to hear nothing about being sensitive and not being able to take a joke. I heard the joke, I took it, and now I'm giving you a criticism. Don't be too sensitive to hear a criticism of your...
Kevin Hart didn't tell the George Floyd joke. He didn't write it. He didn't plan it. He didn't even laugh at it on camera. And yet the internet decided he owes everyone an apology, and the whole thing went sideways the second people who don't understand what a roast even is started demanding accountability from the wrong person. So let's slow this down because there's a lot of noise around this situation and not enough actual thinking. And we're going to break down exactly what happened at that roast, what Kevin Hart said at the Breakfast Club, and why the mob picked the absolute wrong guy to pressure this time.
Yeah, the George Floyd joke, it wasn't a tasteful joke to our culture, to our audience, but our audience that's watching the roast, if you're watching the roast, you get why they're doing it. You get why the racial humor is on the table. Like, it's not, I wasn't shocked. Like, that's what they do. Go look at the Tom Brady one. Like, that's what they do. It happens every year when they do a roast. It's not new. This isn't a new, it's not a new agenda. It's not a new approach to comedy.
Do you feel like Tony Hinchcliffe went too far when he made that joke about George Floyd?
It's Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect less. I don't expect more.
I feel like you're saying going too far is the point. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yes, I mean, that's why you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say this, but I'm going to because we're being honest. People are talking about that joke. Talk about his set. Tony Hinchcliffe arguably had the best set or one of the best sets between Tony and Cheryl, and I would say Naeem had a really strong set.
Naeem had a very strong set. I was laughing out loud at Tony until that joke.
Until the joke.
But not even just that joke. I don't like when people joke about violent, tragic death. I like Pete's set, and then I was like, why you had to say anything about Charlie Kirk?
Pete had a great set too. Pete had a Charlie Kirk joke in it. Like, would I tell those jokes? No. But do I get why they're being told? Mm-hmm. Yes. Like, I'm not looking at Pete crazy. I'm not looking at Tony crazy. Like, that's what, I know what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. I know your style of comedy.
Did you see the interview that I did with Terrence Floyd, George Floyd's brother?
No.
So he said,
no shot to you.
No, that's look.
I'm never watching that.
That's fine.
I just want to be clear. I'm never watching that. Like,
I only brought it up.
Even now that you told me, I'm not going to go back and go look at that interview.
Because he's a fan.
But I just want to make it clear so you understand what I do with my time. Like, I'm never doing that. Okay, go ahead.
I just asked because he's a fan of you. He saw the joke and it picked up pretty big. So I didn't know if you saw it, but he basically said, like, as a fan of you and knowing that you came to the funeral to support his family, even though it's a roast and Tony, that's what he does, they expected you to kind of be the person that would like stop it right in the moment or just not allow for certain things to happen.
And he also said he wanted you to come harder. He said if they're going to joke, why you ain't come harder with your own jokes? All right, racist jokes, I guess.
This is actually a good thing to give a rebuttal to.
See, then
they talked about my dead mom and my dead dad. Said that they were running a train on my mom in
that
was
hilarious,
right?
It was
that
double
was
entendre.
crazy. Yeah, that was Regina killed that.
Right?
Yes, wait, that's right. You probably should say killed that.
The jokes about Kevin was on a slave ship in a bottle with like the ship in the bottle. Like, I'm going to appreciate humor. I don't get affected by the attempt of humor. I get it, right?
First things first, if you never watched the roast, you need to understand what you're actually looking at before you form an opinion about what happened. A roast is not a regular comedy show. It's not a stand-up special where one comedian gets up and tells jokes about whatever they want. A roast is a very specific format where everyone in the room, the guests of honor, the other comedians, the audience, all agree before a single camera turns on that nothing is off limits. That's not a loophole. That's the entire point. The whole reason people tune in is because they know the jokes are going to go places regular comedy won't touch. Everybody in that building signed up for that, including Kevin Hart, who was being roasted himself, as you guys just heard. Now, here's what people kept getting wrong about who said what, I should say. Tony Hinchcliffe told the George Floyd joke. Tony Hinchcliffe, not Kevin Hart. Hart was the host of the roast, which means he's the one who organized the event, welcomed the comedians, and sat in the chair getting roasted himself. He was not up there at the microphone making that joke. Calling Hart responsible for Hinchcliffe's joke is like calling the owner of a restaurant responsible for what a customer at another table said out loud. He runs the place, sure, but he can't control every word that comes out of every mouth inside it. And here's the part that really exposes the selective outrage for what it is. That George Floyd joke was not the only brutal thing said at that roast. Comedians went after Kevin Hart's dead parents, you just heard. Let that sink in for a second. His dead parents. Jokes were made about Charlie Kirk, about other people in the room, about topics that would make plenty of people uncomfortable. Nobody organized a social media campaign over those jokes. Nobody went on radio shows demanding apologies for any of that. The only joke that triggered this level of response was the one about George Floyd, and that tells you everything you need to know about what this is actually about. It's not about the format. It's not about the decency. It's about one specific group deciding that their name is permanently off the table no matter what the setting is. And Hart's own response to this was straightforward and it made complete sense. He said he can't be held responsible for what another grown adult chooses to say on a microphone. That's not a dodge. That's just accurate. You can't run a roast, invite professional comedians who do edgy material for a living, and then claim ownership for every single word every single one of them says. It doesn't work that way in any other context in life, and it shouldn't work that way here either. So if Hart didn't say the joke and the roast format literally exists to allow this kind of comedy, the real question is why the mob is still pointing a finger at him, and that's exactly what the Breakfast Club tried to get to the bottom of. So Kevin Hart walks into the Breakfast Club, and right away, you can tell this isn't a man who's coming into gravel, right? He's calm, he's relaxed, he's sitting there like somebody who already knows what they're about to be asked and already has the answer ready. That composure alone says something before he even opened his mouth. Because when you've done something wrong and you know it, you don't walk into a room full of people waiting to grill you, looking like that unbothered. He walked in like a man with a clean conscience, and the whole interview played out exactly the way you expect when an innocent person gets asked to confess to something they didn't do. Charlamagne, the God, and the host came at him pretty quickly with the idea that he should apologize. The way they framed it wasn't even really about the joke itself at first. They framed it as the right thing to do for the culture, as if apologizing is some kind of community responsibility Hart has just because of who he is. And that framing is worth paying attention to because it's a pressure tactic dressed up as moral guidance. And when you see that pressure tactic dressed up as moral guidance, they weren't saying Hart did something wrong. They were saying he should act like he did something wrong because of how it looked and who it affected. And that's a completely different argument, and Hart caught it immediately. His response was direct. He asked him a simple question, apologized for what exactly? And that question matters way more than it sounds because it forces the conversation to get specific. If you can't answer, apologize for what, quote unquote, then you're not actually asking for accountability. You're asking for a performance. And you want someone to stand in front of a camera and say sorry so the pressure comes off and everyone can feel like justice was done, even though nothing that requires justice actually happened on Hart's part. He didn't say it. He didn't write it. He didn't point at anybody in that room and say, roast that specific person about that specific thing, quote unquote. He hosted an event where a professional comedian made a joke and now people want a formal apology from him like he pulled the trigger himself. When that angle didn't land, the host shifted to the platform argument. The idea there was that because Hart has so much influence in the black community, he carries a special responsibility to respond. And when something like this happens, even if he wasn't the one who did it, and look, I understand why that sounds reasonable on the surface. People with big platforms do have influence over how conversations go, but influence doesn't mean liability. Having a large audience doesn't make you responsible for another grown adult's creative choices. If that logic held up in any other area of life, every major label executive would be liable for every lyric every artist on their roster ever recorded. Nobody actually believes that. But somehow with Hart, they wanted to make an exception. Hart shut that down the same way he shut down the first angle, calmly and with a clear reason. His platform is his, not Hinchcliffe's, and one doesn't transfer responsibility to the other just because they share a stage or share the stage. What the host were really pushing for, even if they didn't say it in those exact words when it comes to Charlamagne and the Breakfast Club here, the individuals who were asking Kevin Hart these questions, they were looking for submission. Not an explanation of what went wrong, not a genuine reckoning with harm caused, just the optics of Kevin Hart bowing his head and saying sorry to make the noise stop. And Hart understood that distinction clearly, which is exactly why he refused. And why what he said next about what an apology would actually mean changed the entire conversation.
In this case, like, do more. It's my production. We're live. The more is what? Like, what is it that you expect me? You want me to take a live production and stand up and fight Tony or have a reaction? Like, Tony told a joke. It wasn't a tasteful joke to us. We didn't like it. Okay. Hey, man, fuck that joke. We move on. I don't understand why we stand on a hill and it becomes like this big thing of like, oh, man, the motherfuckers, they do this and they're attacking the culture. It doesn't have to be that. It literally is either you're a fan of this level of content or you're not. And if you're not a fan, then you don't watch it. So my last note for all attached to this is very simple, okay? Whatever the headlines or whatever the dialogue is, my rebuttal is simplicity. Remove me from it. I didn't say it. If you are upset that the night went on, that's a different conversation. It's nothing I can do. It's a production. It's a live production. I'm not compromising the live production for a reaction of what? What do you want me to do? I'm going to drag him off? You want me to fight afterwards? You want me to turn it into, like, what? That's not what I agreed to do. That's not the job at hand. The job at hand was to produce a successful roast, which I did.
And he's just emphasizing professionalism. And that's what makes Kevin Hart phenomenal and why individuals love to do business with him, because he keeps it professional, understanding the job at hand and executing a task.
I also got the rebuttal. I also got to say shit at the end. What are we dealing with here? I'll say it again. Stop talking as if I said it. Mm-hmm. So when you say the family and the family's affected, I didn't disrespect the family. Showed up for the family when it happened. made sure that the family felt supported, made sure that all things there were actually cool. Behind the scenes, just as an example, you know the one person that I talked to, and I'm not even gonna tell you the conversation, Stephen Jackson.
Oh, I know he caught that.
That's because that's my nigga.
Yeah.
Hey, Stack, let me just call you, man, so I can explain to you like the world of the roast, X, Y, and Z. We talked. I get it, Kev. We had a great conversation. But that's what I mean when I say, hey, man, let me call the one person after. And that's before whatever you're talking about. That's immediate. Stack, hey, Tony threw one out there. It's this and this, but you do know that that's what this shit is a roast. But I just want you to know from my side, that man is on his own.
You ain't lead with that, Kev. You should have been leading with that the whole time.
Because I don't need to.
People just want to know you care.
I don't fucking need to prove to people that I give a fuck.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Just this time. This one time.
No.
Yes, this one.
No. If you open that door, then that's the door that people expect all the time. Why the fuck do I need to do that?
I think it's because of how much the George Floyd situation affected so many people. I think I get what you're saying and how you stand on your business, and I respect you for that.
I'm not talking about standing on business.
Or whatever it is. I think with certain things.
Not say it.
But their pushback is it happened at Kevin Hart's roast. Kevin Hart, who is like, he's like, so many of us support you. You're ours.
They just want to hear you say. Okay, I just want to hear you say what you said today. It's tasteless. You actually reached out to somebody who's considered his family to say, let them know. That's all.
I have the best example. If I go to a nightclub and like we're celebrating, right? And 2 people get killed that night at the nightclub. What's the headline?
Kevin Hart's party got shot.
Two people died at Kevin Hart's party, right? People may say, I'm not going to Kevin Hart's party again. Man, you can't go to Kevin Hart shit. Kevin Hart shit ain't safe. I ain't fucking with Kev. You heard what happened. I go, but I didn't fucking do it. I didn't even know the people that fucking was shooting. I didn't even know the 2 people that got killed. That's the nature of being the name. Your name is attached to things to make things bigger. What is my fucking... I didn't shoot the gun. Why am I arguing and why am I doing interviews after?
Why were they in your party with guns?
But who knows? I don't work the metal detectors. I'm not the security guys. The club does all that. I don't have those answers. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the responsibility it starts to compile as if I'm the one in charge. We are not in charge of the dialogue from anybody on that stage.
If Tony calls you right now and says, man, Kev, man, I was out at the comedy club, man, and man, this dude, man, who said he was George Floyd's brother, smacked the shit out of me.
You gotta deal with that.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? What the fuck do you want me to do?
And it's just something I learned, right? You can't control nobody's actions but your own, right? And the simple fact is, it's like if you have a disagreement with someone, you can only share, or if someone does something you don't like, I should say, or you have a disagreement, you can only speak from your experience. You can't sit there and say how it came across to someone else, because the only thing you can control is how you perceived it and how you looked at things, but you can't control how the other person looked at it. So you have a conversation. So here's what Hart understood that a lot of people either can't see or don't want to admit. Apologizing when you did nothing wrong isn't humility, it's surrender. Those 2 things look similar from the outside, but they're completely different on the inside. Humility is owning what you actually did. Surrender is accepting blame for someone else, for what someone else did, just to make the pressure stop. And when you surrender to that kind of pressure, you don't get peace. You get a bigger bill the next time around, because the people demanding an apology now know exactly how much force it takes to make you fold. Think about what it would actually mean if Hart stood in front of a camera and said sorry. The second he does that, he's no longer Kevin Hart, the host who ran an event where a comedian told a bad joke. He becomes Kevin Hart, the man who admitted he was responsible for that joke, which means every future conversation about that roast starts from the assumption that he owned it. You can't walk that back. An apology in that situation doesn't close the door, it opens one. And on the other side of that door is every other thing the mob decides he needs to answer for next. And that's not a hypothetical. That's the documented pattern every single time a public figure caves to this kind of pressure. You're seeing it play out over and over again. Someone gets pressure into a public apology. and the response isn't relief, it's escalation. The apology gets picked apart for not being sincere enough, or for not going far enough, or for not naming specific people by name, or for waiting too long. The goalposts move the moment you step toward them because the actual goal was never the apology. It was the act of submission itself. And once you get that, they know the lever works. And now pull it again. And Hart refusing to apologize and stubbornness is basic self-preservation. And he knows exactly why. So now go back to the roast format for a second, because this is where the hypocrisy gets impossible to ignore. Everyone at the roast agreed to equal opportunity offense. It's not an interpretation, that's the format. When comedians went after Hart's dead parents, nobody in that building said stop, and nobody outside of it organized a response campaign. When they went after Charlie Kirk, people cheered. The agreement was simple. Everybody gets hit, nobody is exempt, and you accepted that before the cameras ever rolled. Pulling one specific joke out of that agreement and demanding accountability for it while laughing at everything else doesn't make you principled. It makes you someone who's fine with the rules until the rules apply to something or to someone you care about. That double standard is exactly the point Hart was making. Even if he didn't spell it out in those exact words, you can't have a format built on equal offense and then carve out a permanent exception for one group. Either the roast is a roast for everyone or it's not a roast at all. It's just a show where certain names are protected and everyone else is fair game. And if that's the version people want, they need to say so honestly instead of pretending this is about decency. Because the people who laughed at every other joke in that special don't get to wave a decency flag the moment one specific joke lands differently for them. Hart isn't just defending himself here. He's asking a much larger question about who actually gets to draw the line on what comedy is allowed to say. So let's zoom out past Kevin Hart and past this specific roast, because the question underneath all of this is bigger than one joke in one interview. The real question is, who gets to decide what comedy is allowed to say? And once you sit with that question for a minute, you realize how dangerous it is to hand that power to a mob, because a mob doesn't have a constitution. A mob doesn't have consistent rules or a clear standard that applies equally to everyone. A mob has a feeling, and that feeling changes depending on who the target is. And whoever controls that feeling controls every comedian, every writer, every creative person who needs an audience to survive. That's not abstract, that's practical. That's what happens in action. The moment you give an outrage campaign the power to pull one joke off the table, you're giving it the power to pull any joke off the table. And there's no version of that where the demands stop at one. Comedy has always pushed against whoever holds power, whoever sets the rules, whoever decides what's acceptable. And the reason it does that is because that's the only way it stays honest. The second comedy has to ask permission from a specific group before it's allowed to go there, it stops being comedy and starts being propaganda with a punchline. And Hart's decision to hold his ground matters way beyond his career and way beyond this moment. What he's actually doing is refusing to let outrage be the final word on what's acceptable in a free society. And that principle doesn't stop at comedy. It runs through every part of public life where people are told to be quiet, apologize, and step back because a vocal group decided they were out of line. The mechanism is the same whether it's a comedian, a journalist, a professor, or a regular person at work who says something someone didn't like. Pressure plus silence equals control. And the only thing that breaks that equation is someone deciding the pressure isn't going to work on them. Free speech has always been clearest in the moments that made people uncomfortable, not the moments everyone agreed on. Nobody needs a free speech principle to protect a joke everyone finds funny. You need it exactly for situations like this one, where one group wants to draw a circle around themselves and say this name, this person, this legacy, that's off limits, no matter what the setting is, no matter what everyone else agreed to walking in. Hart's answer to that is the same answer the First Amendment gives: equal treatment or no treatment. Everyone gets to smoke or nobody does. And you don't get to make that call based on who you happen to care about. That's not a hard position to understand. It's actually one of the simplest things to do, or the simplest things in the world once you strip the noise away from it. The rules were the same for everybody in that roast, is my point. Hart didn't change them when it was his parents being targeted. He's not asking for them to change now. He's asking for the same standard to apply across the board, and the people demanding an apology from him can't answer why that's wrong without admitting they never wanted equal treatment in the first place. Hart's refusal isn't a shot at George Floyd. It's a refusal to take the blame for something he didn't do. Plain and simple. The mob wanted him on his knees, and he gave them common sense instead. So tell me in the comments, do you think Hart was right to hold his ground, or do he have a responsibility to say something regardless? Drop your take below because I want to hear from you and where you actually stand on this. And if you want more breakdowns like this that cut through the noise, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you in the next one. On that note, family, peace.